folks, welcome in. Seven Rivers Racing, K2E GTV. I'm Dan Dyker, still recovering from the 45th annual Oktoberfest race weekend. Voice is about maybe 85%, and I've really got a big weekend coming up as well. So vocal cords are going to hopefully stay strong here for the next week, and nice recovery during the winter off season. I do want to thank everybody we saw that came out for the 45th annual Oktoberfest race weekend. Made a lot of old friends, made a lot of new friends, thousands and thousands of campfires going at the same time. Fantastic food, good cocktails, and the racing was simply some of the best. 17 divisions, crowned 10 different champions. ARCA Midwest Tour had something happen that's never been done in the history of the ARCA series. And in this segment, we're going to kind of give you a little bit of a recap on the winners from this past weekend, and then in a couple of weeks we're going to put together a huge video montage of the entire show, which will show the highs and the lows of the Oktoberfest race weekend. And then we're going to get you set for a big weekend at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway that's going to be coming up this weekend. Well, of course, Thursday night of races, well, Mother Nature had her way. She came whipping through and turned that huge campground at the fairgrounds into a big mud puddle, and we could not get our championship races in for the La Crosse Speedway. 5 points races. Highest point race was 33. The lowest was 2, and it was kind of a rough night. But Chuck Dury had a huge call to make, whether to put those different races in different segments and move cars around for the lower pits, the upper pits, and it was just it was kind of a schematical nightmare. So, yeah, I felt sorry for having to be Chuck Dury to make that call. We did crown champions, though. Steve Carlson wins back-to-back lacrosse late model champions with his NASCAR at the Speedway. Also is back-to-back Wisconsin State NASCAR champion. So he'll be heading out to the NASCAR banquet in North Carolina here in December. Greg Scheck, what a fitting way to end his career. He wins the championship this year, a big 6 points over Steve Bachman. What a race that would have been Thursday night. I can guarantee you that much right now. And Steve, after his storied career racing at lacrosse for more than 30 years, decided to call it quits at the end of Oktoberfest. We're going to try to get him on the show before the end of the race season here. Great career for Greg Scheck. Jason Bolster did something I haven't seen anybody do at the La Crosse Speedway as long as I've been there. He knocked down 4 track championships this year. He wins the Thunder Stock point race. He wins the Thunder Stock dash. He won the novelty, and he won the figure 8. And Jason Bolster said he doesn't really have much in his plans for next year. I bet I see him holding a Bud Light on top of the hill every single race next year, because that's Jason Bolster for you. He's kind of a humble guy, but was very excited to see that. Mark Bornitz, what can you say? If it's a Bornitz Hornets, you better be prepared. On the back of his bumper it says, "You just got probed." You've seen it at lacrosse. You've seen it up at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. And the Bornitz clan, both Steve and Mark put another big trophy in their case. And, of course, we crowned our street stock champion before the end of the race season back in late August. Steve Aaron had took that championship home, plus we had all of our dash winners as well. Banquet news, I think, is going to be sometime in January. Schematically, they had to move some things around. Went from December to November to January. So watch lacrossespeedway.com, and we'll get some more information there. As for Oktoberfest itself, well, the first time in many years, lacrosse has run a 200-lap race on Oktoberfest Sunday. They did with live pit stops this past weekend. And in the end, Travis Sauter did it again. 2014 ARCA Midwest Tour Oktoberfest 200, his 4th Oktoberfest championship. He won in 2009, 11, and 12. Now he does it again in 14. And he held off Danny Frederickson, a former Oktoberfest race champion, by about 4 car lengths. 20-year-old Timm, you're going to watch this guy, folks. I'm telling you what, if you got his autograph, you may as well hide that thing, because it's going to be worth something one of these days. The 20-year-old made a splash at lacrosse last year. He's from Seymour, did it at WIR, did it at Kaukauna, and he really made a name for himself this year. And not only did he get the 2014 Rookie of the Year for the ARCA Midwest Tour, he's also their champion. Never been done before in the history of ARCA. And he also punches one of 2 tickets. He gets to test a full ARCA Series car for free on the 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway this coming December. Watch Timm run the ranks here in the next 5 or 6 years. What a great, fantastic story that was. Michael Beamish won the Big 8 Oktoberfest JMAC 63-lap Invitational. John Gilbertson, otherwise known as Johnny's Hobbies, won the 15-lap Oktoberfest Vintage Car Race in a 1976 Javelin AMX. What a car that was. A matter of fact, my guest in the program knows the owner of that car. We'll talk about that here in a minute when I mention Chris Loberg's name. Also, looking at Oktoberfest Big 8 feature on Saturday, went to Austin Nason. Casey Johnson, your 2014 Big 8 Series champion. Jeremy Spoonmore, who won at La Crosse in July as part of the Tundra Series, came through the Mid-American Series, also won the 40-lap Oktoberfest feature. He beat Tyler Boutnick. The champion, Jeff Holtz, finished 4th in the feature. Kyle Stark beat Adam Eckes by inches to capture the checkered flag in the Midwest Dash feature. My guest in the program today, we have a term for him at the dirt track, and I used that term at La Crosse Speedway this week, and I'll explain that to him here in a minute as well, because that race there was one of the biggest, most fantastic, exciting races we saw all weekend when the four-cylinders went to the 5/8 mile with the big fat tires on. Danny Fredrickson captured back-to-back Dick Trickle 99 late model features after winning the intense 3-segment battle with Nick Mergic during the Friday night races. Mergic and Fredrickson were tied with 6 points entering the third and final 33-lap segment, and that near-capacity crowd was all on their feet from turn 4 all the way to the Big Red Barn. There was nobody sitting down to watch how this one ended up. Jason Wyckoff held off Casey Johnston and Mark Lamro to win the Stubby Super Late Model feature on Friday night. Dave Trout won the Great Northern Sportsman feature, celebrated that Mustang with several burnouts up there in turn 1. Trout was enjoying that celebration. Devin Schmidt was crowned the 2014 division champion, and Blake Brown won the Midwest Truck Series, followed by Chester Ace. One of the most interesting names of all. We had 500 some drivers at the La Crosse Speedway over 4 days. The most interesting name was a Midwest Truck Series driver, Chester Ace. I think his parents were thinking when they had that kid that he was going to drive one day, because who else has a name like that? It's like one of those names you hear in baseball every now and then. So if you want more information, lacrossespeedway.com or OktoberfestRaceWeekend.com. All the recaps are on there of who did what this past 4 days, and we'll be getting a video highlight show for you here in the next couple of weeks. Well, that rounds out matter of fact, you can't say that. Saturday at La Crosse Speedway is the final street drag of 2014. It's the 300-foot bracket nationals. 200, 300, 400 cars coming out of 4 or 5 different states. Full conversion on La Crosse Speedway, and all they want to do is street drag. Everything from small 4-cylinder, big banging cars to the old Novas that you've seen with Jeff Grant and some of these guys. Expect a huge crowd of cars like we've seen over past times, and a lot of big speeds coming down, and of course giving away piston cups and pumpkins. We're going to talk a lot of dirt when we come back next, something we've not been able to do the past 3 years, because the Mississippi Thunder Speedway Fall Fest was the same weekend as La Crosse Speedways. This year, it's this weekend, and I'm really jazzed. Looking forward to getting up there and seeing what Bob, Timm, and the crew do for Oktoberfest Fall Festival. And we're going to talk to track owner and driver, man of what, 15 different hats, Bob Timm, when we come back on 7 Rivers Racing.
Get ready for the Thunder!
The Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Your Friday night racing destination.
Every Friday night.
Super stocks, modified.
600 mods.
Pure stocks, street stocks, B-mods.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style. Tickets $12 for adults, $10 for seniors. Students free with an ID. And this year, kids 17 and under free with an adult admission. Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the Thunder!
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Highway 35 just north of Fountain City.
Some of the best moments in life happen at home. American Standard Heating and Air works smarter to make them all more comfortable.
For a limited time, save over $600 on select American Standard systems. Call now for details.
Holman American Legion Post 284. It's all about veterans' rights, quality of life. The Legion belongs to the veterans it serves. The American Legion supports Holman High School sports and local NASCAR racing. Did you know the Legion is open to the public? Stop by for a cold one. Tuesday lunch is a home-cooked meal. Supper is Buck Burgers. Thursday, it's tacos. They can be the place for your wedding reception or meeting. Holman American Legion. It's for veterans and for the people of Holman.
At Cousin Subs, we never settle for good. We always strive for better. Since 1972, we've been creating our signature Deli Fresh subs. We start with fresh bread that's baked every day. Then we freshly chop vegetables and slice the meat daily. how we do it, and always have. Why? Because you deserve better.
Welcome back, Seven Rivers Racing, KQB GTV. I'm Dan Dyker, still trying to get those vocal cords to act accordingly. And got a big weekend coming up here, something I've not done at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway yet since I've been there in, I think, 4 years. And that's announced a Fall Fest. And to talk more about that, we're going to bring in the owner, promoter, driver. I haven't seen him flick burgers yet, but I'm sure he can do that too, since they have the best mushroom and Swiss in this entire area. And that would be Bob Timm. Bob, thanks for coming in.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Busy week, so I appreciate you taking some time out. First and foremost, not a lot of lacrosse folks that I talked to during Oktoberfest knew that the Fall Fest had been moved this year. What was the inclination to, whether it had anything to do with lacrosse's Fall Fest or not, Oktoberfest, talk about moving it a week after lacrosse's Oktoberfest.
Well, it's always been, before it was a fall festival for the last 6 years, it was the Great Pumpkin Race, and it's always been that first weekend in October. And this year, for some, and it's that way because there's 1 week after that USRA and WSOTA, which are the two dirt track sanctioning bodies that we run within their rules, that's kind of their last weekend of racing. And in some months, in some years in October, just the way the date falls with the sanctioning bodies, there's an extra weekend in there that you can run. And it just so happened this year there was one. And then we had a scheduling conflict with the USRA Nationals that took place in Kansas last weekend. And we really didn't want to run without being able to award national points.
Sure.
And so Todd Staley asked us to go ahead and move it back a week. We had that weekend within the time frame that national points could still be awarded. And it was just kind of after the fact that we realized it got us off the date of Oktoberfest down here at West Salem, which is obviously a benefit for everybody that wants to take in both races. And so as it's worked out, both for that reason and now looking at the weather forecast, I think it was probably a good decision and fortunate that Staley kind of forced our hand in moving it back a week.
And the weather forecast, what I've seen, is going to be mid to upper 50s both Friday, Saturday, even Sunday afternoon. So it looks like you guys are going to have a great weekend to incorporate full. And of course, just the colors up there themselves, folks. We're having a slow time getting colors to change down here in the La Crosse region, but up towards Fountain City, they're really steadily changing. So the atmosphere and the backdrop's going to be fantastic. So now this will be the first time, like I had said in the first segment, I've never had a chance to talk about the Fall Fest because I've been doing Oktoberfest race week at the same time, and now fully involved announcing with you guys. Talk about this Fall Fest. What are some of the divisions that'll be there, and how big are some of these races going to be?
Well, actually, this year, it goes year by year. It's always big, and there's always some tight points races. But as I said, with USRA and WSOTA, it's the last weekend of national points being awarded. So And it kind of depends on whether or not there's some really tight races at the top of some of those national point standings.
Sure.
We don't typically run like WSOTA B mods. We run USRA B mods. For this race, we bring in the WSOTA B mods. Well, it just so happens this year the WSOTA B mod race is really close. And so you'll see probably 5, maybe 10 of the top 10 in national points at our track this weekend duking it out for the national championship. Superstocks, WSOTA Superstocks is another one. I think right now there's 1 or 2 points separating the national points leaders, and so this is the last points race of the year, and that's why we do the 2 separate shows. That's why we do a complete show Friday, complete show Saturday. So you got 2 opportunities to win points and kind of separate themselves from the rest of the pack. Superstock is really, really close. We've combined it with another touring series, and so we expect some other top cars from a different touring series to come there as well. So it should be really interesting with top competitors in touring series and WSOTA national points competing against each other, and we will crown the Superstock National Championship at MTS this weekend, so that's pretty exciting. There's also close races in USRA, both in B mods and USRA modifieds, and that's going to drive some of those guys from the Missouri area back up here for the weekend to get right. 2 more national point shows in as well. So, so in addition to the national points races, we have additional classes. This year we've added the Hornets. We tried Hornets 4 times throughout the year with a lot of success, and it grew throughout the season, and so we're excited to announce that Hornets are part of the program both Friday and Saturday, and Hornets will be part of our program on a weekly basis in 2015, which is exciting news. We'll have, in addition to those, we'll have the WISSOTA B mods on hand, which we typically do not run, and all of our other regular classes. So Friday night it'll be an action-packed night with, I think, 7 different divisions running. Then on Saturday, because our season championship night rained out, we were bringing in USRE stock cars. And for folks that haven't seen USRE stock cars, they're like,
that's what I've got written here. I've not seen that before.
They're an awesome class. It's a full-body car like a street stock or WISSOTA street stock, but they have like A-mod motors in them. So they got 550 horse in a full-bodied street stock style car with not a lot of traction. If you haven't seen them race, it's something you got to see. They are probably one of the most entertaining classes that I've seen in our area. Just like a lot of the full-body car classes, they struggle for car counts a little bit, and so you don't see them being added to tracks as a weekly class. But it sure is fun to bring them in once in a while, let them race in front of the crowd because they put on an awesome show, and they will be there on Saturday racing for 500 to win.
Now, open practice when this show airs is going to be tonight, Thursday from 6 to 9. All classes are invited for practice.
Absolutely, all classes.
And then talk about the structure of timing-wise. When do the races start Friday and Saturday?
Practice will run 6 to 9 on Thursday, just for those people that may be watching the show and aren't aware of that. Friday night, we're actually starting a little bit early. We're starting at 6:30 on Friday night. We'll actually start the little cars at 5:30 on the small track, and the big cars at 6:30 on the big track. On Saturday, we have the luxury of everybody being there, not after work, so we're actually going to start the little cars at 3:30 and get them completely done because we have an extra division of big cars with the USRE stock cars, and then we'll start the big cars at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So with the weather being like it is, sundown early, we can get a little earlier start, maintain the track, not have to worry about it going too dry, slick too early in the night.
And also camping, folks, I would recommend, I'm going to be pulling the camper up probably late Thursday afternoon. I'm going to get some laps done. I wonder if my Hornet will even start. That thing's been sitting there. I haven't even started that in about a month, so I'm bringing the big battery charger with me as well. MississippiThunder.com, the only website you need to go to, folks. They've got a couple of PDF flyers on there. All the information is on the website. Not only will we break down the classes and divisions that are going to be racing, but also if you're looking at what the monies are going to look like, which to a lot of people is interesting. It may change from day to day and from class to class, but a lot of money is going to be thrown out there for these drivers. For some drivers, they may be retiring after this weekend dirt-wise. Some will be getting their feet wet for the first time, and some may have repeat champions that are going to be going bigger and better things around Mississippi Thunder next year. So some of the best. It's one of those kind of races you never know what to expect, but expect a lot. And you'll be able to break that down both Friday and Saturday. When we return, Bob's got some news that he released this week that might have a ripple effect through western Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota when talking about divisions. Hornets, we'll talk about that again since they're going to be part of the card next year. But we're going to kind of pick his brain a little bit on a late model class next on 7 Rivers Racing.
We're here when the sun rises. And when the bread rises too. And we're here slicing a deli fresh every day. And every morning, we're chopping it all up. Why do we put so much effort into making it fresh? Because you deserve better.
Holman American Legion Post 284. It's all about veterans' rights, quality of life. The Legion belongs to the veterans it serves. The American Legion supports Holman High School sports and local NASCAR racing. Did you know the Legion is open to the public? Stop by for a cold one. Tuesday lunch is a home-cooked meal. Supper is Buck Burgers. Thursday, it's tacos. They can be the place for your wedding reception or meeting. Holman American Legion. It's for veterans and for the people of Holman.
Some of the best moments in life happen at home. American Standard Heating and Air works smarter to make them all more comfortable.
For a limited time, save over $600 on select American Standard systems. Call now for details.
Get ready ready for the Thunder.
The Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Your Friday night racing destination.
Every Friday night.
Super stocks, modified,
600 mods.
pure stocks, street stocks, B-mods.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style. Tickets $12 for adults, $10 for seniors. Students free with an ID. And this year, kids 17 and under free with an adult admission. Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the Thunder.
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Highway 35 just north of Fountain City.
We are back one more time. Seven Rivers Racing, KQED TV. I'm Dan Dyker. My guest, Bob Timm, owner, promoter, and driver at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway, getting ready for their 6th annual Fall Festival coming up on Friday and Saturday. Going to be a great time. I've been looking forward to announce up there for that Fall Fest since I knew it had been a week later than our La Crosse Oktoberfest this year. Really get to know some of the drivers, some of the friends and family that are up there, and some of the parties. Can't wait to see what happens down there when the DJ starts throwing things down on a Friday night. I'll be good. See, that's one thing Bob doesn't know. Everybody knows how I am at Oktoberfest race weekend for 7 nights with maybe a little sleep and excessive partying every now and then. I'll be good this year since I'll be breaking you in up there.
Yeah, great.
MississippiThunder.com, don't want to forget that. For the Fall Fest, everything you need to know is on there. Camping and the parties and the racing and all the good stuff that's going to go on there. Just download the PDF files. You can do it from your smartphone, do it from your laptop. That's going to be all the information. Dan Bailey and I are going to be tweeting everybody all the way through the weekend to keep you updated on what's going on. I do have to mention, I did forget one of our lacrosse champions. We were talking about outlaws. Cole Schulze ended up winning our lacrosse outlaw championship for 2014. So big news was released this year. As a matter of fact, this week, just a couple of days ago, for another class at Mississippi Thunder Speedway in 2015. You've already said the Hornets are going to be coming back every Friday night. You got a new venture here that's been in the works for at least, I would say, 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a challenge to build classes, and I mean for everybody, not just for us, and whether it's asphalt, dirt, whatever. And so I think the need for more affordable classes is out there. And last year, after several years of running late models, Deer Creek Speedway decided to drop late models, and I think it was something that we all foreseen was going to happen, and it ultimately ended up happening last year. And since that happened, there's a good following in our area for late models. I mean, people enjoy late models. They like late models. The problem with late models has become that they're so expensive to race, and the tracks can't really afford to pay them anymore. And so the numbers have just dwindled. And it's really hard to wind back the clock, and kind of reel in the rules and get the cost down where it can be to where tracks can run these cars on a weekly basis and pay them what they need to run for. And so, I started thinking about what we could do to try and fix that. And I really like late models. I raced late models for about 5 years myself, and so I really didn't want to see them become extinct up here. So over the off season last year and now throughout the course of this year, we've been working on a set of rules that I feel will make late model racing affordable and hopefully bring those cars back to our area. And in fact, I bought a car myself. We've been working on it throughout the course of the season, and last Sunday tested it for the first time, and with I think a great deal of success. It was fun to drive. It's a set of rules unlike any other set of rules that are out there right now. We didn't just take a full-blown late model and put a cheap crate motor in it or something like that. Right. And we're not calling it a crate late model class because it's not. There's an option for a crate motor for those guys that would elect to do that. But it's an open motor late model class. We reeled in the rules on shocks, headers, tires, motors, fuel, all those kinds of things. The things that, as a racer, that I think make it difficult for me to get the track weekly cost-wise. Right. And we kind of reeled in all those rules, put a car together, and then tested it to make sure that it would be fun to drive and put on a good race. And it did. It was a lot of fun. And so we're working with Todd Staley at USRA right now to go ahead and lay out these rules and get USRA sanctioning. And we're happy to announce that it's going to be a class that we're going to add to our weekly show next week. So now for folks that have ventured up to MTS, and I've still run into folks that have not been there since it was a trial, but there's been a lot of folks coming out of this area that have gone up through this year and enjoyed what they've seen. For the folks that have seen the street stocks, B mods and A mods, how would you, and maybe even the modifieds, how would you classify? We've seen late models at La Crosse Speedway. Where do you fit in the late models when it comes to speed and putting in an entertaining show when it comes to MTS with the classes you have? Well, first of all, speed-wise, At this point, I believe it's going to be the fastest car we have on our track. I think that
and that's fast, folks, because we've clocked the 600 mods doing 87 before, and we've clocked the A mods in the upper 80s, lower 90s.
Yep. I think, when we tested, we had a little bit of traction when we started, and I think the first guy to drive the car ran like a 15.6 lap time, and that's about as fast as the fastest modified heat that I could find all year.
Holy
and that was the first run in the car for the guy. So that's a pretty fast lap time, and that's a late model with 450 horsepower and a hard tire on it. So I expect that we'll see that get better yet, and I also see that we'll see a bigger separation in those lap times as the track dries out because you got an 11-inch tire.
Right.
I mean, it is a full-blown late model. We've just taken some steps to reduce the amount of traction so that it drives much like a late model with 600 or 700 horsepower would with 450 horsepower and a tire that'll wear for a long period of time. And
at the same time, making it more economical than what it used to be.
Absolutely. I think you're going to, my car that we put together to test, I think I'm in the neighborhood of about $700 to $7,500 total in the car turnkey. And I would sell it for that today. And so I think depending upon what route you go, whether you go buy a new motor, you go buy a crate motor, something like that,
sure,
somewhere between $7,000 and $12,000, you're going to get a turnkey late model and be able to race for 350 to 400 to win per week. And you're going to be on a set of tires that's as cheap as like a modified or a B-mod tire. And you're going to be running pump gas with a little bit of racing gas mix and on an affordable shock with a limitation on the number of shocks you're going to be able to run, so you don't have to have a whole trailer full of them. So it's going to be, I think, more affordable than, say, a street stock.
Right.
I think it's going to be in that affordability range of a B-mod, somewhere right around there, possibly even cheaper than that with the tire roll package that we have.
And real quickly, before we do run out of time, I do have to mention how impressed I was with this B-Mod class this year. Not for the two special shows we had, but the average car count we had per night. It was ranging anywhere between 24 and 28, a couple of nights even 30. And you had to really be excited to see that the B-Mods have pretty much taken over the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Absolutely. And we got, B-Mods used to start out as people that just got into racing. They were beginning racers, and that's what that class was for, but it's really not that anymore. Now it's experienced drivers that just don't want to spend the money to go to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so when you get in the top 10 or top 15 of the cars that are running at our track on a weekly basis, they are good quality drivers that are staying in that class. They're not going anywhere. That's the money they want to spend in the class that they're enjoying, and it puts on a hell of a race week in and week out. And I think we can build that same kind of scenario with this late model class.
And the same thing to say with the 600 mods this year. Some of those numbers, I mean, obviously they had a Touring Series label this year with liquid nitro, but their numbers were very strong.
Absolutely. Again, a testament to more affordable racing being needed in order to grow racing, continuing growing racing moving forward. It's gotten so expensive, and there are ways to have affordable classes out there, and the classes that we've implemented so far that are affordable have grown, and the more expensive classes have declined, and that's why the introduction of the late model class. The people in the stands don't necessarily know whether those cars have 700 horsepower or 500 horsepower.
Well, they just know they're fast.
Right, exactly. And typically, the higher the horsepower gets, the more separation there gets between the cars. You know what I mean? So as the horsepower comes back,
takes away from the show.
Right. You get a better quality show with the lower horsepower cars that are more competitive with each other than letting somebody that's really got it hooked up and got 700 horsepower getting 10 car lengths out in front.
Right.
And so I think, I'm really excited about this late model class. I have a ton of interest in it. I have no doubt, no reservation that we'll have a sufficient amount of cars to go ahead and add the class next year, and I think it'll just grow in leaps and bounds from there.
Well, of course, I want to help spread the word on that on Facebook, MississippiThunder.com. If you're going to be at Fall Fest this weekend, and maybe you heard bits and pieces on Dan Bailey's radio show or Mightier radio show or the TV show, you can ask Bob anytime you need to. Get a hold of him on Facebook, and you can get a hold of Paula. Well, he doesn't have Facebook. He relies on Paula's.
My cell phone number is, yeah, I do. Sometimes I don't want to read some of the stuff that would be on there if I had my own, but my phone number is right on our website. That's my personal cell phone. You can call me, ask any questions. I'll be happy to answer them for you. There'll be more details to follow here over the coming months, but I can give you the gist of the rules, the payouts, that type of thing if you have interest in it.
All righty, as we gear ourselves up for this weekend, the Big Fall Festival, the 10th and 11th, Friday and Saturday, MississippiThunder.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Follow them on my Facebooks, and we'll get you all the details of the last big event of the 2014 racing season at MTS, and really get you kick-started for what's in store for 2015. For Bob, Tim, I'm Dan Dyke. I want to thank Bob for for sponsoring both the radio and TV show this year. Hopefully we can get it locked and loaded again for next year with more and bigger and better things. MississippiThunder.com. Also, I'm going to have Bob on the radio show this Saturday to talk more about it. That's going to be on AM 580 WKTY from 12 to 12:40 before UWL football. I'm Dan Dykert. Thanks for joining us on 7 Rivers Racing.